Grace Kelly was born on November 12, 1929 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. She grew up in a wealthy and cultured family. Her father was a successful businessman, and her mother was a former model. From a young age, Grace was interested in acting and the arts. She studied acting in school and began performing in theatre productions as a teenager. Her beauty, poise, and talent helped her get noticed in the world of movies. In the early 1950s, Grace Kelly moved to Hollywood and started acting in films. She quickly became one of the most famous actresses of her time. She starred in popular movies like High Noon, Rear Window, and To Catch a Thief. Her performances were praised, and she won many awards, including an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in The Country Girl in 1955. Grace Kelly was admired not just for her beauty, but also for her elegance, charm, and professionalism. She became a symbol of classic Hollywood glamour. In 1955, Grace Kelly met Prince Rainier III of Monaco at the Cannes Film Festival in France. Prince Rainier was the ruler of the small European country of Monaco. They fell in love quickly, and the world was fascinated by their story. In 1956, Grace Kelly gave up her Hollywood career to marry Prince Rainier and became Princess of Monaco. Their wedding was watched by millions of people around the world and was seen as a real-life fairy tale. Grace embraced her new role as a princess and worked hard to represent Monaco with grace and dignity. She was involved in charities and helped promote Monaco internationally. She and Prince Rainier had 3 children, Princess Caroline, Prince Albert, and Princess Stephanie. Grace Kelly's life as a princess seemed glamorous, but it was also very different from her life as an actress. She had to follow royal rules and responsibilities, which meant giving up her independence and career in Hollywood. Despite this, she managed to balance her public duties with her private life and became loved by people around the world for her kindness, style, and dedication to her family. Tragically, Grace Kelly's life was cut short. On September 13, 1982, while driving with her daughter Princess Stephanie, Grace suffered a stroke or fainted, which caused her to lose control of her car. The car went off the road and crashed. She was badly injured and taken to the hospital, but she died the next day at the age of 52. Her sudden demise shocked the world. People remembered her not only as a Hollywood star and a princess, but also as a woman who lived a life of elegance, courage, and grace. Even today, Grace Kelly remains a symbol of beauty, talent, and dignity. Her story is remembered as one of both fairy tale glamour and tragic loss. She continues to inspire generations with her films, her charitable work, and the way she carried herself as a princess. Her legacy lives on through her children, her films, and the memories of those who admired her worldwide. As years went by, Grace Kelly's legacy only grew stronger. In Monaco, she became more than a princess, she became the heartbeat of the principality. Her elegance transformed Monaco into a symbol of luxury and cultural sophistication. But beyond the glamour, Grace worked quietly behind the scenes, helping hospitals, supporting orphanages, and using her influence to uplift those in need. Many people who met her described her as warm, attentive, and surprisingly humble for someone the world saw as royalty. Her devotion to the arts never faded. She became a patron of theatre, dance, and film festivals in Monaco, believing deeply that creativity brought people together. Grace encouraged young artists, funded new cultural centres, and opened doors for performers from around the world. The Monte Carlo Ballet and various cultural institutions still credit her for their global recognition. Even after her tragic death, the people of Monaco honoured her legacy through foundations, memorials, and international charity work. The Princess Grace Foundation, created in her memory, continues to support emerging artists in theatre, film, and dance, keeping her passion alive for generations who never had the chance to see her shine in person. Hollywood also never forgot her. Directors, actors, and fans still speak of Grace Kelly as one of the most iconic stars to ever grace the screen. Her films are studied by actors for her subtle expressions, timeless presence, and unmatched screen charisma. Film critics often place her among the greatest actresses of all time, not for the quantity of her work, but for the unforgettable quality she brought to every role. Grace's children carried forward her legacy in their own ways. Prince Albert continued to modernize Monaco and champion global environmental causes. Princess Caroline became a respected cultural leader much like her mother, and Princess Stephanie dedicated herself to humanitarian work, especially for children in need. Through them, the world sees pieces of Grace Kelly, her compassion, strength, and unshakable poise. Today, more than 4 decades after her passing, Grace Kelly remains an eternal figure of elegance. Young generations discover her films on streaming platforms, fashion designers draw inspiration from her style, and historians continue to explore her extraordinary journey from a Hollywood dreamer to a global icon. Her story shows that true royalty is not defined by wealth or crowns, but by character, generosity, and the way a person touches the lives of others. And so Grace Kelly's legacy lives on, not just in the palace walls of Monaco, not just on the silver screens of classic cinema, but in the hearts of millions who admire her grace, her humanity, and the quiet strength that defined her unforgettable life. Yet as powerful as Grace Kelly's public legacy is, there is another part of her story, a more intimate, lesser-known chapter, that continues to fascinate historians and admirers. Behind her calm smile and perfect poise, Grace faced pressures that few people ever truly understood. Her life was a constant balancing act, between the expectations of royalty, the longing for artistic freedom, and the desire to simply be a mother raising her children in peace. Friends close to the family would often say that Grace's greatest happiness came not from fame or titles, but from quiet moments at home. She loved reading bedtime stories to her children, planting flowers in the palace gardens, and hosting small gatherings filled with laughter instead of flashbulbs. To her family, she wasn't a princess or a Hollywood star, she was simply Mom. But even those private moments were touched by the weight of her past. Grace sometimes spoke about the stage with a mix of nostalgia and acceptance. She knew she had chosen a new destiny, one that required sacrifice. Still, there were days when she missed the thrill of a film set, the lights, the scripts, the creativity flowing in every scene. She considered returning to acting several times, even discussing potential roles with directors who admired her. But palace obligations, public expectations, and the fierce protection of Monaco's image made it nearly impossible. Grace Kelly remained loyal to her duties, choosing family and responsibility over personal dreams. Despite life's challenges, she never lost her sense of purpose. Grace believed deeply that every life, no matter how glamorous or difficult, had meaning. She hoped that through kindness, compassion, and dignity, she could inspire others to find strength in their own journeys. After her death, people from around the world traveled to Monaco to pay their respects. Thousands lined the streets for her funeral, some holding flowers, others holding photographs of the actress who had brightened their lives. Many people cried openly, fans who grew up watching her films, citizens of Monaco who loved their princess, and even celebrities who admired her character more than her fame. The outpouring of love and grief proved just how deeply Grace Kelly had touched the world. In the years that followed, her story transformed into something greater than a biography. It became a symbol of timeless beauty, sacrifice, and destiny. Books, documentaries, and films about her life continue to be made, each revealing new layers of the woman behind the legend. Her wedding dress, displayed in museums, still inspires designers globally. Her photographs, full of elegance and quiet strength, remain some of the most recognizable images in the history of cinema. But perhaps the most powerful reminder of her impact is the simple idea she embodied, that true grace comes from within. Grace Kelly lived a life full of glamour, yes, but also one full of heart, humility, and courage. And that is why, even today, decades after her passing, Grace Kelly is not just remembered, she is cherished. But Grace Kelly's legacy doesn't end with memory or nostalgia. It lives and breathes in the way she changed culture, fashion, and even the definition of elegance itself. Long after her passing, her influence continues to ripple quietly through the world. Fashion houses still study the simplicity that made her style iconic: clean lines, soft colors, and an effortless sophistication that didn't need extravagance to captivate. Decades later, modern actresses walking red carpets often credit Grace Kelly as their inspiration, aiming to capture even a fraction of the timeless charm she carried so naturally. Designers and photographers say that Grace didn't just wear clothes, she elevated them, giving every image a sense of story, depth, and emotion. But beyond appearances, Grace Kelly's spirit left an imprint on the way people viewed fame. At a time when Hollywood was bursting with scandal, controversy, and competition, Grace carried herself with dignity and calm. She didn't chase attention, attention found her. She showed the world that success didn't have to be loud or reckless. It could be soft, graceful, and meaningful. Her life also became a symbol of transition, a woman who lived not one life but two completely different destinies. In Hollywood, she was adored by millions. In Monaco, she learned the weight of responsibility, the reality of sacrifice, and the power of service. And in both worlds, she remained true to herself, gentle, intelligent, compassionate. Today, walking through Monaco, it's impossible not to feel her presence. Streets, gardens, theatres and foundations carry her name. Tourists visit the pink-hued palace on the hill, imagining the life she lived behind those walls. In the palace courtyard stands a serene statue of the princess, capturing her quiet, thoughtful beauty. Locals often leave flowers at its base, a small gesture of gratitude for a woman who brought warmth and identity to their principality. But the most touching tributes come not from statues or ceremonies, but from people who met her. Ordinary individuals, gardeners, staff members, shopkeepers, often shared stories of her kindness. They remembered how she spoke gently, how she listened without judgment, how she treated everyone with the same respect, no matter who they were. Many said that Grace Kelly made them feel seen, valued, and important. That is the kind of legacy fame cannot create, only character can. Her children, now adults with their own roles in Monaco, still speak of their mother with affection and pride. Prince Albert often says that his mother taught him the importance of humility and compassion. Princess Caroline inherited her artistic vision, becoming a champion of culture. Princess Stephanie, shaped by the tragedy she witnessed, dedicated herself to humanitarian causes. Each of them carries a part of grace within them, a reminder that her story continues through their lives. And perhaps this is why Grace Kelly's life remains unforgettable. She was more than a Hollywood star, more than a princess, more than a symbol of glamour. She was a woman who touched people deeply through her art, her kindness, her choices, and even her silence. She showed the world that greatness is not always loud, sometimes it whispers. Grace Kelly's story teaches us that beauty fades, fame changes, and life moves on, but true grace, the kind that touches hearts, remains forever. As the years pass, Grace Kelly's story continues to evolve, not because new events unfold, but because people keep discovering new meaning in the life she lived. Her journey becomes a mirror for countless individuals who dream, who sacrifice, and who strive to find purpose in a world that often demands more than it gives. Film students study her performances, amazed at how effortlessly she conveyed emotion. They pause frames, analyzing the subtle lift of her eyebrows, the gentle softening of her voice, the unspoken thoughts in her eyes. Modern actresses admit openly that Grace set a standard that few have ever reached. She taught them that acting wasn't about loudness or exaggeration, it was about truth. And in Monaco, young girls grow up hearing stories of the princess who brought kindness to the palace. They see her as a beacon of class and strength, a reminder that royalty is earned through actions, not just birth. Schools teach her charitable work, museums display her handwritten letters, and cultural institutions still celebrate the patronage she once provided with genuine passion. The world watches as her grandchildren carry forward the legacy she never lived to see. They too inherit her poise, her calm spirit, and her timeless charm. And through them, a piece of grace continues to shine into the future, reminding everyone that some lights never go out, they simply pass from one generation to the next. Every year on the anniversary of her passing, Monaco becomes quiet. Flowers appear at the base of her statue, candles flicker near the palace gates. People who never met her still feel connected to her story. They stand in silence, not mourning her, but honoring everything she represented: beauty, strength, sacrifice, and grace. And somewhere in the world, a new viewer discovers one of her films for the first time. Maybe it's Rear Window, where her elegance steals the scene. Maybe it's To Catch a Thief, where she moves through Monaco long before she ever knew it would become her home. Or The Country Girl, the film that showed the world the depth of her talent. As the credits roll, another person becomes captivated, another heart joins the millions who already admire her. What makes Grace Kelly's story so powerful is that it bridges two worlds, the fantasy of Hollywood and the reality of humanity. She lived a life that seemed like a fairy tale, yet she faced challenges that made her deeply relatable. Her journey reminds us that behind every icon is a real person, someone who loves, struggles, sacrifices, and dreams. And so, as time moves forward, Grace Kelly remains untouched by it, frozen not in the past but held in the collective memory of those who cherish her. She lives in photographs, in film reels, in the quiet stories whispered by those who knew her. She lives in Monaco's culture, in Hollywood's archives, and in the hearts of people who are inspired by her grace, both the elegance she carried and the kindness she lived. Her story isn't just remembered, it's retold, again and again, generation after generation. Because Grace Kelly wasn't just a star. She wasn't just a princess. She became something far more enduring, a legend whose light will never fade. As the world moves further into the future, Grace Kelly's life becomes more than just a chapter in history. It becomes a timeless reminder of what it means to live with purpose. Generations who never saw her films in theaters, who never witnessed her transformation from actress to princess, still find themselves drawn to the woman behind the legend. They see in her a reflection of their own hopes, the dream of rising above circumstances, the courage to reinvent oneself, and the strength to follow a new path even when the world is watching. Her fairy tale wedding, once a global spectacle, has now become a symbol of classic romance. Her crown, her gowns, her iconic poise, these remain etched in the collective imagination. But what people cherish most is not the glamour, but the humanity beneath it. Grace Kelly showed the world that elegance is not an appearance, it's an attitude, that kindness is not weakness, it's power, that true royalty is defined not by titles, but by how you treat people. In Monaco, her memory is not just preserved, it's alive. The Princess Grace Foundation continues to fund artists across the world, supporting the very dreams she once held. Schools teach children about her charity work and compassion. The rose gardens she cared for still bloom each spring, filling the air with the quiet beauty she loved so dearly. Her palace apartments remain untouched in places, as if waiting for her gentle footsteps to return. And every once in a while, on a calm evening, as the sun sets over the Mediterranean and the city lights begin to shimmer, people imagine what she might have thought if she could see the world today, a world still captivated by her story, still inspired by her journey, still moved by her grace. Her legacy does not lie in the tragedy of her final moments, but in the life she lived before them, a life of artistry, transformation, courage, and selflessness, a life that touched millions, a life that proved that even when fate is unkind, beauty can still live on through the memories we leave behind. When visitors walk past her resting place at the Cathedral of Monaco, they often pause not out of sorrow but out of respect. They whisper her name softly, as if speaking to a friend they've known for years. And in that quiet exchange, Grace Kelly's story continues. Because legends do not end. They echo. And Grace Kelly's echo, gentle, elegant, eternal, continues to resonate through time. Her films is her family, her foundation, her memory. These are the threads that weave together her unforgettable legacy. And that is where her story rests, not in sadness, but in the enduring light of a woman who lived with extraordinary heart. The story of Grace Kelly ends here, but her grace lives on forever,